What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here, and in this video I'm going to be showing you yet another exam on the Architectural University of Belgrade in Serbia. This is my university, and yesterday there was a finals exam, or basically a master's thesis exam at my university, and that's something that's waiting for me next year, so I wanted to go and take a look, and I also took my camera with me and did a little bit of filming so you can see what this looks like at my university. Now, there were a bunch of interesting projects, and I'm going to be talking about all of them just a little bit, and just to get a sort of a feel of what architecture school looks like in my university. And here we have, this is the Architectural Technologies class, I guess you would call it, and they do these cool looking projects that are actually very detailed in design, and everything's thought through and everything. They've got all of the details figured out. This is actually a project by a good friend of mine, and it was this house embedded in this hill, and I think that was the topic for the whole class. So the whole Architectural Technologies class did this kind of a building that's embedded into this hillside, or I guess that's how you would call it. And they did have quite wild projects, which kind of amazed me a little bit. I'm used to seeing these Architectural Technologies projects being kind of simple yet extremely detailed, and everything's figured out, but this was quite conceptual and wild, and also, again, very, very thought through. And yeah, here we have another interesting project, and all of these models are quite cool, and I mostly filmed only models because I thought they were quite cool, and you can see drawings everywhere online, but models are kind of interesting and neat, so that was what I mostly filmed. So here we have, this is architecture class, or just general architecture, and we have kind of some classes where they're a bit more conceptual, and some classes where they're, I don't know, pretty basic and pretty straightforward, something you would see in real world. And this is one of those more conceptual classes, and these models were quite cool. This is a wooden model. This is, I guess this is a gypsum probably, or maybe it looks like some 3D printing, I don't know. So again, a lot of these cool models, and they're not really realistic when you look at them. People are looking at these models, if you're not in architecture, and you're probably thinking, well, what the hell does this have to do with architecture? But the idea behind all of these conceptual models is, through the materials and through the shapes and everything, you're trying to portray the feel of your building. And this that you're seeing right now, this is Urbanism, or a landscape class. I think there were only 2 classes for this, and I filmed a little bit. They do kind of more broad scale projects, and usually just some landscape. They don't go into individual buildings all that much, but again, they had some interesting models and projects, and they had some interesting presentations later on. This is Integral Urbanism, that's kind of more even broader scale, and they're figuring out how to basically create whole cities. But anyway, back to architecture. This is a class that was that did the same location as my class, so if you want to see that project, my project for this semester, you can check out the link in the description. So this master thesis class had the same location and the same topic, which is a jazz center, and it was quite interesting to see kind of the different interpretation. Their professor was a lot more tolerant of wild conceptual projects, so as you can see over here, all of the models are kind of wild and interesting, and the projects were quite cool. It was quite cool to see how a first-year master student and a second-year master student does the same project, and how differently everything is interpreted, and how vastly different the projects turned out. And of course, it's a lot due to professors. Some professors that are more conceptual would kind of encourage students to kind of let go and be wild, and other professors that are more technical and do some more basic architecture, something that you would actually see in real world. They don't let you be that wild, but you have to think your projects through and make them work as they would need to in real life. And again, this is one of the more conceptual classes, these amazing models, and the materials really speak. So it's really important to pick out the materials right and to have them portray the feel of the whole building. And it doesn't have to be an exact model of the building. It has to kind of show the general shape as well as the feel of the whole building and what were you going for. Again, here's some interesting wooden models. A lot of wood, a lot of metals, and this plexiglass material that was laser cut, that was quite popular. Also a lot of gypsum, and this is a brass model. I think it looks really cool. Yeah. And this is one of the more interesting projects or topics, I guess, for the project. This class had the topic of a prison, so they were modeling a prison for inmates, I guess, and they were doing these wild conceptual projects. And I guess the topic of prison is quite interesting because it's unusual. It's not something you get to design all that often, so it was quite cool to see the projects that students came up with. And this actually reminds me of a cool story I heard a while back. So this wasn't the first time that prison was a topic for a class on my university. So a while back there was also a prison for a topic, and one of the students actually designed concrete beds for prisoners that were just ever so slightly angled so the prisoners would roll off when they're sleeping. It's horrible, but I guess he thought he was designing a kind of a torture chamber instead of a prison. But anyway, so we're continuing on here with some more conceptual projects, and I would guess that like 80% of the projects were really wild and conceptual, but that's okay, especially for master thesis. And a lot of these plastics, and there were quite a few melted plastic projects. That's kind of cool way to create a model. And every class usually has a different topic for that semester, but some of the professors let students kind of pick their own topics, and it really depends on the professor, both the level of, I guess, wildness of the project, as well as how closely they have to stick to the topic of the project. These are, I guess, maybe a bit more realistic buildings. And this is the construction class, if I'm not mistaken, so architectural construction. So they do more of a projects where they kind of have to figure out some new cool styles of construction and how that would work in real life. And it's probably one of the hardest topics of majors on my university, but it's quite cool. And when they finish, they usually know a lot more than us that are kind of architectural majors. And here we can see one of the more realistic classes. You can see buildings that actually look like buildings in real life, and the topic was, I guess, a concert hall. There were a bunch of concert halls here, and that was quite interesting for me because we had the same topic of a concert hall or a jazz center. So it was interesting to see how do master thesis students basically figure out a design for a concert hall. This model was quite interesting. This is a gypsum model, and I can't figure out how did anyone manage to pour this gypsum out into this model. It looks quite cool. And here we can see this is the interior of the concert hall. It's some quite cool renderings. I really like them, and the exterior is wild as well. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed seeing all of these projects. I tried to make this a bit longer video and to give you just to show more models and to go a bit slower than the last one I did. I think I kinda went over everything way too fast. So here you can see a lot more models, a lot more interesting projects, and I hope you have learned something new or at least got inspired to do something of your own. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video, and I'll be back tomorrow with another tutorial. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and share this video, and if you have any questions, comments or suggestions for future tutorials, please leave them in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.